Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are going to unpack something so fascinating. You know, when we think about massive multi-million-dollar businesses, we usually picture this visionary founder, right? Someone who locks themselves in a room for months, meticulously mapping out this flawless step-by-step master plan. But what if I told you that some of the greatest businesses in the world actually started as complete and utter accidents? Today, we are exploring the immense power of the pivot, and how stumbling into a literal mistake might just be the absolute best thing that ever happens to your career.
So let's just jump right in. What on earth do a 19th century pharmacist, an out-of-work gamer, and a guy brewing beer in his basement all have in common? On the surface, absolutely nothing. I mean, they are separated by decades, totally different industries, and completely different skill sets. But the thread that ties all these unrelated people together is that none of them set out to build the specific, massive empires they're known for today. They stumbled into massive success by pure happenstance. And more importantly, they succeeded by paying really close attention when things didn't go according to their original plan.
All right, Part 1. The Myth of the Master Plan.
We really need to challenge this common assumption that building wealth requires a rigid blueprint from day one. Money just doesn't always come from a carefully planned career path. In fact, research actually shows that many thriving ventures start purely from boredom, necessity, or just plain curiosity. People are just trying things out. Maybe they're trying to solve a tiny problem in their own life, or maybe they just have a little bit of free time on a weekend. The key difference between a fleeting hobby and an accidental empire is recognizing when something actually works and having the guts and flexibility to lean into it.
Moving on to Part 2. Everyday accidental side hustles. To show you how incredibly accessible this concept is on a micro level, let's look at some digital accidental hustles. We've got people selling digital templates, casually posting random videos online, selling AI-generated content, or building Notion productivity systems. And according to recent data from Wealth Gang, almost none of these start with a grand strategy. Someone might just edit a quick video for a friend using CapCut, or maybe they create a simple daily planner strictly for their own personal use. They upload it online just to see what happens, and suddenly, boom, what was just a fun little side project becomes a highly scalable income stream. $5,000. Guys, that is the upper end of what some creators are making per month, simply by selling Notion templates. Think about that for a second. They built a system just to keep their own daily tasks organized, decided to toss it up on a marketplace like Gumroad, and suddenly they're pulling in serious, recurring monthly revenue. The demand for organizational tools just keeps growing, and these creators were perfectly positioned, completely by accident.
Okay, Section 3, Scaling the Happy Accident.
But what happens when that little digital accident scales up into a physical, mid-level indie business? Take the incredible story of Kyle Brown, the founder of Clawhammer Supply. So Kyle was broke and he just wanted to build his own copper still as a fun little project. But the smallest shit of copper he could find was actually big enough to build 3 stills. So he figured, hey, I'll build 3, sell 2 on eBay, keep 1 for myself, and essentially get my own for free. At this point, he was literally making maybe $1 or $2 an hour for his labor. It totally wasn't a business. It was just a hobby. But then it started to snowball.
Let's walk through Kyle's completely chaotic scaling timeline. He started out on the literal dirt and stone floor of his basement. Then he upgraded to a rented garage that he described as a dungeon. At one point, he had to fulfill a massive rush of orders while he was traveling for his day job. He actually went out, bought a pop-up tent, set it up in a Home Depot parking lot in the pouring rain, and built parts on the floor of his hotel room. Eventually, sales just went completely ballistic. He went from making these tiny margins to doing $60,000 in sales in a single month. He was maxing out a $10,000 personal credit card every single day, just to buy supplies, paying it off the next day, and repeating the whole cycle until he finally had to quit his corporate consulting job. And today, they operate out of a full warehouse in Tennessee with a dedicated crew.
So how did Kyle actually turn a grueling, time-consuming hobby into a scalable business? The answer is the pivot. A friend came over one day, saw him sweating away, and asked how he ever planned to scale this thing. Kyle said he didn't. It just took way too long to build a finished still. The friend suggested, well, why don't you just sell the raw parts in an instruction guide instead of the fully built product? Kyle totally didn't think anyone would want to build it themselves, but he tried it anyway. And wow, that single accidental pivot to selling parts changed everything. It made the entire business viable.
And Kyle definitely isn't alone in this. Consider these other accidental entrepreneurs. You have Sophia Amoruso, who started out casually selling vintage finds on eBay out of a super modest office.
By forging her own path, she accidentally scaled that little side hustle into Nasty Gal, a $128 million clothing empire. Then there's Doug Lacombe. He was laid off at age 45 from his executive job. After searching for work for 6 months, his severance package was running out, so he basically bet on himself out of pure necessity. He started Comunicado, a digital marketing firm that grew 50 to 100% year over year. And Patrick Hall? He was just a 19-year-old college kid with a weirdly natural knack for critical path scheduling. His professors actually started referring logistics clients to him, and without even realizing it, he became a consultant. Today, he has a controlling interest in over 30 companies. The common denominator? They all leaned hard into their unexpected circumstances.
Which brings us to Section 4, billion-dollar business mistakes.
Let's escalate this explainer to the macro level, looking at massive corporate giants that were born from outright failures. Take a multiplayer adventure game called Glitch. It was created by a company called TinySpec, and honestly, the game ultimately failed due to financial struggles and had to be completely shut down. But they didn't just throw the whole shebang away. You see, the game's internal chat system was incredibly smooth and efficient. They sat down and asked themselves, why let this rot? So they rebranded, pivoted, and launched that chat system as a standalone app. That app? It became Slack, which went public in 2019 as a multi-billion-dollar communication platform.
Sometimes a spectacular failure in one area is a massive success in another. Back in 1968, a 3M scientist named Dr. Spencer Silver was trying to invent this super strong adhesive for airplanes. Instead, he completely failed. He accidentally made this really weak adhesive that just lightly stuck to things without bonding tightly at all. For years, it was considered a totally useless mistake. But then his colleague Art Fry needed a bookmark for his choir hymnal that wouldn't damage the delicate pages. They combined that weak glue with some little yellow paper, and boom, the iconic Post-it note was born.
How about this one? In 1898, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg was trying to make a nutritious wheat-based health food for his medical spa. He accidentally left a batch of wheat dough out overnight. It fermented, but when he baked it anyway, because, why not? It turned into these thin, crispy flakes. His brother Will looked at this and realized corn might actually work even better. He added a bit of sugar and accidentally created Kellogg's Corn Flakes, literally transforming the American breakfast forever.
Or consider our final corporate giant. All Kirk Christensen owned a carpentry shop in Denmark making wooden toys. But during World War I, there was a massive shortage of birchwood. He literally couldn't make his primary product. Forced to adapt, he pivoted and acquired a plastic molding machine to make plastic bricks instead. That forced pivot out of pure necessity laid the exact foundation for the Lego group that we all know and love today.
So what is the real secret here? Is it all just blind luck? I want you to think about this quote from the Roman philosopher Seneca. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. This actually happens to be the favorite quote of Casey Gauss, another phenomenal accidental entrepreneur.
All right, Section 5, the formula for luck. Let's break this down into an actionable framework.
To really understand the framework behind these successes, let's look at Casey Gauss's story. It perfectly captures this formula. Casey spent years trying to force these grand master plans, building beacon apps, trying to make the next big social network, and he just kept failing. Then a friend suggested a super simple side hustle. Just build a basic coupon website to make a little extra cash. Casey didn't have a grandiose vision for this at all. He just focused on helping his customers. And as he paid really close attention to what those customers actually needed, he kept pivoting the coupon site into a software and data research company. That little side hustle became Viral Launch, a massive company with over 70 employees that helps brands drive over $9 billion on Amazon. $9 billion!
When we synthesize all the sources we've looked at today, from everyday side hustles all the way up to billion-dollar empires, we get these 3 distinct steps. Step 1. Experiment without a rigid plan. You just have to put things out there, whether it's a Notion template, a random piece of content, or building a copper still in your basement. Step 2. Recognize unexpected data. When the plain adhesive fails but it sticks lightly, or when your game fails but the chat system is flawless, listen, that is not a failure. That is data. And step 3, pivot and lean in. You absolutely must have the flexibility to abandon your original idea and follow that unexpected momentum, because that preparation is exactly what allows you to capitalize on the opportunity.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. What mistake are you ignoring right now? Seriously, what project quote-unquote failed? What hobby is taking up all your free time? Or what weird little side project is actually handing you unexpected data that you are just too stubborn to see? Remember, the greatest empires in the world didn't always start with a flawless plan. They started because someone was brave enough to let a happy accident take the lead. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible topic today, and I highly encourage you to go look at your own accidental opportunities through a completely new lens. See you next time.